Welcome to So Very Easy. My name is Laura, and what can we make with a pair of glasses and a mustache? Well, let's make a placemat. The placemat is going to have a fun pair of glasses, a mustache, and a little heart. These applique pieces are going to be cut out and fused on fabric. If your mustache and glasses are going to be dark, be sure to choose a lighter background. And that way, the mustache and glasses will really show up. So I'll need a little bit of fabric for the glasses and the mustache, a background fabric which is 12 inches by 13.5 inches, two little pieces of fabric, and these are 1 inch by 12 inches, and they're going to be folded and pressed in half so the right side is facing out. Each side of the placemat is going to have two little panels, and they're cut 4 inches and are binding. I've chosen the binding in those little white strips to be the same color as my little heart. To make the applique shapes, I've chosen a lightweight fusible bond because I do want to stitch around my shapes. And I'll put a link in the description if you want to use this. So the first thing we need to do is cut out our shapes from the fusible bond. A fusible bond is paper with glue stuck on it, and this glue is designed for fabric. The shiny side is the glue side, and the paper side is the side we get to draw on. So we need to take this shape, place it on a fold, and trace it on the paper side of the fusible bond. So I have the shiny side on one, and I'm tracing on that paper. And you don't have to worry about the wrinkles, they'll all come off in time. When you trace out the shape, be sure to leave a little bit all the way around the shapes. This will just be easier to cut out after. Each fusible web has a different heat setting. Some take a very high iron, some take a low iron. For the Featherlight, the iron needs to be set at a medium heat and with no steam. The fabric does need to be pressed. So press all the wrinkles out of your fabric. Then we're going to be able to place this shape on top of the back of the fabric so that that shiny side is against the back fabric. We can now iron this fusible onto the fabric. Start from the center and just lift up the iron slightly as you go over. And then go to the next side. Once it's secured a little bit, then you can give a little bit of a circular motion, and all you need is about 2 seconds to fuse that on. And then we need to let it cool. The cooling is going to make that glue stick onto the fabric so that we're going to be able to take off the paper. If you don't let it dry, if you try to peel it off, the glue will want to stay on the paper. So we need to let this cool down. You can always test the corner to make sure it's stuck on. Now we can cut out that shape and cut right on the lines. Having that little extra paper just makes it easier to cut. Once the shape is cut out, when we turn it over, we can see we have the right side of the fabric showing with the paper on the back. We need to do that to the glasses, the mustache, and the little heart. We're going to be able to fuse these pieces on to the main body of fabric. The center piece is 12 inches by 13.5 inches, and I want to find a center mark. So I fold it in half, and just with my fingers do a little bit of a rub, and that way I can see the fold lines. And that's going to give me my center. And from here, we're going to want to center on the mustache and the glasses. And this little heart we can do after. We need to peel off this paper. Just take a pin and run that point along the paper. That pin's going to cut the paper, and it's going to give us an area to be able to pick up that paper and gently peel it off of the back fabric. So we now have the glue on the one side and the fabric on the right side. And do the same to the mustache. You can have a lot of fun and change this. He can have crooked glasses or a crooked mustache. You can keep them straight, have them close together, or apart. Just place them where you would like them to be. And once they're where we want them to be, we're going to be able to iron these down and fuse that so that the glue from the back will stick on the back fabric. We are still going to use the medium heat iron with no steam for about 4 to 6 seconds and then move it over. And we're going to continue pressing for anywhere between 4 to 6 seconds. It's not a lot of time, but it's just enough to hold everything in place. And I do like to start from my center points and gently move out. And that way I'm not stretching anything. Now those pieces are stuck on. The little heart can go anywhere you want it to. We can put a little heart in the glasses, a little heart on the side, a little heart in the top of the glasses. For myself, I'm going to place that heart on the side. Same thing, just peel off that paper and iron that heart down. The placemat is a very simple design. We're going to put these 2 4-inch pieces along each side. But before we do that, we're going to add this little strip of fabric. It's 1 inch and it's folded in half. That raw edge is going to go along the edge of the fabric. We're going to do that to both sides. So that fold is facing in. And we're going to stitch those down along that side. But we need to use something smaller than a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Once those little edges have been stitched down, we can put on the sides. Match up those edges and stitch a 1/4 inch on both sides. Once those 2 seams are stitched, we're going to be able to take that top fabric and press it so it's going out. So all of those seams are going to go towards this edge. So we now have this little piece of fabric sticking up, and that's called a flange. From here, we're going to be able to stitch around these applique shapes. We can use a very tight zigzag and go all the way around, or a blanket stitch. Now, if you do not want to stitch these down, you can use a stronger glue. The Heat and Bond collection would be the red one, and it's called the Ultra Hold, and it's actually considered no-sew. The glue is very thick and it's very strong, so you don't have to stitch around afterwards. As a matter of fact, it's very hard to stitch around. So if you don't want to stitch around this, be sure to pick up the red package, which is the no-sew. So I'm going to put some black on my machine and stitch all the way around these shapes. And I'm going to use a little zigzag. With that tight little zigzag all the way around the shapes, the applique is done. And the top of the placemat is now done. We can sandwich those layers together just like we would any quilt. So we have the placemat top, the backing fabric, and some batting in between. Now we get to quilt it. I'm going to do a few rows of quilting. I'm going to start by quilting down that edge, and I'm going to stitch in the ditch, do 2 rows of stitching, and then go around each of these shapes. Once it's all quilted, we can trim it down and put on our binding. And I'll put a link in the description on how to do some binding. And with the binding done, Mesure placemat is now done. So that simple shape of a pair of glasses and a mustache gives us a really fun placemat. And this is just in time for Father's Day. I do hope you give it a try, and thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe, and as always, come on back. Let's see what we're sewing next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.